We're at Mark's garage. He's one of the PowerModz crew. We're going to put these nice little wheel spacers on his Commander. These were sent to us by atvtirescanada.com. Good old Phil there always likes to outfit us with some cool stuff, and these are just newly arrived. Now we're going to try out these wheel spacers. Some people are wondering why you'd want to use a wheel spacer, and it's basically to give you that extra width on your machine, give you a little more stability. You know, these Commanders are pretty narrow to begin with, which is, you know, they have their advantages, but if you want to do some hot dogging on the roads, you want a little bit more stability on the side hilling, and these will do it. Now they do sell kits for a lot of UTVs, ATVs. They're widening kits, but you got to get, you know, different shocks potentially, longer travel arms. There's more expense to it. And these right here, they'll do it a lot cheaper, and they'll do the same thing. I use these on my Land Cruiser, give me that extra width, and it allows me to run a big, thicker tire as well, a wider tire. I've never had a problem using a spacer. One thing you have to be careful of is that when you're removing them later on, sometimes they have a tendency to get a little bit of corrosion in the back side of them. So you want to make sure that you clean all that up before you try to put it back on again, because you want a nice, smooth, or you want a nice kind of machine fit all the way around, or else it's going to give you a little wobble on the trail. I'm just going to show you the difference, how this looks. You know, we're putting these tires on. We don't know how they're going to react on the machine being so wide. So we're just running them through the full travel of the steering here. And I can see that that's pretty tight in here behind my hand. But when it compresses, I don't know how it's going to react. So we're going to check that out. In comparison to the stock setup, come over here, look at this. On the back side, without a spacer, it's still pretty tight. But, you know, Mark reports really no rubbing as it is. These are the kind of issues you run into when you start modifying your machine, putting bigger tires on it, bigger lugs, messing around. But hey, that's half the fun, right? Here. So as far as going in the mud goes, are you going to be an advantage having these wider spacers and having a wider stance? Well, not necessarily. It kind of creates more area underneath your machine to get hung up on potentially. But, you know, if you're off camber mudding, it might work out a lot better for you. Make sure when you're putting these on that you do torque them up to the factory specs or whatever it is that they tell you. If you over torque these because they are in aluminum, you are going to screw them up inside here and you're going to wreck this. You don't want to do that. Also turn these in by hand before you do anything. You don't want to just throw the ratchet gun on here and start spinning it because it's going to cross thread. Always use your crisscross pattern. Learned that when I was about 12 from my dad. Might be a little bit better day today than last time we were out in the mud, right? Kind of broke a CV joint. And that's one of the problems you get when you steer or turn your wheels too tight, when you've got these big tires with a lot of traction on them. I turned too tight and hammered it. And you know what? It's kind of a rookie move. Happens to everybody. So that was a 5-minute run on the trail. But I ended up getting my CV joint installed, fixed by CV Tech in Gatineau. It cost me about 125 bucks. Wasn't bad. Pretty good. Easy installation. Ready to go again. But it's getting cold, right? These mornings, it was about 1 degree this morning. That was cold. It's nice to have that smell in the air, and the leaves are changing on the highway already. So that's good. You'll know whether or not you have more stability when you're driving this. Do you find it to be tippy anyway?
I almost flipped it once.
Yeah.
Pull it doing it in the parking lot.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And when they stopped spinning, it tipped side on it. So
Yeah.
the steer's kind of gapped back down. But
Well, that happened to Ryan's. I think like.
he loaned it, eh?
Yeah, his friend Ryan, the guy who goes out with us as well, he's got a Commander 1000. He went out and gave it to one of his friends and hit some soft ground in the dirt. $3,500 damage. Not good. Another thing about spacers, if you happen to buy a set of tires and rims for your machine, but the offset is different, instead of going out and having to buy a new pair of rims, you can just use the spacers to get your offset, the correct offset, just to get back to factory specs. They'll help clear the discs and the brakes. That's usually where you run into the problems. The rim will want to bind up on there. And also, some people have concerns that you extend your tire out, you put a bit of extra force on the bearing, it's a little harder on the bearings. You know what? I've never really noticed anything like that. I just noticed that I'm hard on bearings. And when you're in the mud and you're really riding hard, you're just going to have to replace that kind of stuff and keep on top of it. Now, I've got these for my Polaris RZR as well. And, it has a pretty wide stance on it. I think the only time I'm going to ever use them on that is when I'm really hot dogging it on the back roads. But for something like the narrow stance razors, they'd be perfect. Just to give you that extra little width. I mean, they do get tippy when you're out having fun. And it can really make a bad day or good. They can really turn a good day into a bad day pretty darn quickly. Right on. That's it.
Hey, let's do a video of taking them off.
That's good. A lot wider. You gonna be able to get it in your trailer?
Make it impossible to find